Is yours, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Kavita. Well, that was very encouraging to start with. You look young. Who doesn't like being praised, especially about their age? Especially we women know that very well. So let me start with extending my gratitude to Toastmaster Sri Devi for having invited me for today's session. It is an honor to be part of this session. Excuse me, kindly give me a minute. Just my daughter is right next to me, so I just want to make sure she doesn't disturb our presentation. Thank you very much for that. And yes, so what is it to evaluate? Well, this was a question I had when I joined as a Toastmaster in 2014. I really did not know. I thought it was picking out everything that was wrong in a speech and just throwing it out over there so the person can improve. But what I missed over there is the people factor, is the EQ, or the emotional quotient that people who receive your feedback go through. What I missed throughout the years is how you make them feel, how you as an evaluator contribute to that person's growth. Which is why I put together this session called Evaluate to Motivate. What is it and that we look for? How do we give our feedback? So for that, I'm going to go towards the whole workshop in two different categories, okay? One, we need to know how well they did their speech, right? What do we look for in a speech? Yes, we know how to evaluate, which is part two, but what do we look for in the speaker to evaluate? So for my first one, I'm going to share this video. So what do I evaluate? So right now what we're going to go through is those 5 to 7 minutes speech. What are we going to look for? Like as an evaluator, you know exactly what to look for, right? So what are we going to look for? So in that speech, we would be looking at content creation. First is our content creation. So as we say here, we're going to look at content creation. We're going to look at how did they deliver and their delivery skills and the personalizing of their styles. How did they do it? So I always believe in a lot of quotes because people have put out quotes from the bottom of their hearts because they've experienced something or the other. So one day I will find the right words and they will be simple. So we are going to analyze how the person opened their speech. So there are different ways in which they open their speech. Now, the reason why I'm taking you through all this is when you evaluate, you've got to let the judges know that you have done a thorough study of their speech. You have analyzed, because there is a segment called analytical quality in the ballot, which we will cover later. So what exactly do you cover in that analytical quality? So starting with the opening. Keep a track, right when these speeches are going on, put down, create a column, positive points, points to work on. Write down every single thing that they do. For example, don't just write the opening was great. What exactly did they do in their opening? So did they have a catchy phrase? Or did they just start with a personalized story, creating a visual imagery? Or did they start with a quote? Or did they start with a question? Always consider the first 20 seconds of the person's speech. What did they do in the first 20 seconds? Because science and research has it, as most of you are aware, it's the first 20 seconds that grabs your attention. It is the first 20 seconds that makes or breaks your speech. So put all this in mind, note it down immediately once the person starts speaking. Next, in their body, what are we looking for in the body of their speech? Now, this is only regarding to content creation. We are analyzing the content of the story. Did they drill in the story? Which means, did they explain? Did they go deeper into the story? And did they hook us? What factors did they use to hook us? Did they have casual jokes? Did they have casual conversations? Or was it just a general delivery style? Was it first person speech? Was it third person speech? So that's what you're going to analyze here in the body. What factors did they do? Were they transition smooth? Like sometimes some people have one incident or two incidents, and then there's a transition between them, right? Was it smooth? Did they do it smoothly? Or did you just feel like there was an abrupt stop and then they went into the next one? That's what you analyze, the transition smoothly. Think, how did you feel throughout their speech? What is it that struck you? Because when you notice all this, you're writing it down as the speech goes. Whatever all these, you're going to write it down quickly, okay? And if you find that positive, write in the positive segment. If you find it negative, write in the negative. When I say negative, those are points for improvement. Write it down in your negative segment. Now, did they use any figures of speech? Did they have idioms, phrases? Did they have similes, triads? Look through every analytical quality in the body of the speech. Once you look through it, go ahead to the conclusion. So, how did they summarize it? Was it encouraging? Did you feel motivated? Did you have a call for action that you felt like you wanted to do something? Or did you not feel anything at all? Did they finish with a punch? So just like how there's a first 20 seconds, the power 20 seconds, I give you the last 20-second bar, because it's not just how you open. My true and my strong conviction is how you close it as well. If you have an amazing starting, you keep people throughout their story, and then you have an abrupt end, it doesn't really make it, right? So you got to make sure that the last 20 seconds are also powerful. Put it there. You can use this as a point in your evaluation, because people are only going to look for your first 20-second points. What about the last 20 seconds? These are all tips for you. And then the second part, what you analyze in the speaker, is the delivery styles. Now, like we all know, there are two particular styles of delivery. You're going to find my presentations not perfectly in line with the Arto's master branding guidelines, because when I do workshops, I believe in learning best in moments of enjoyment, because that's what our founder Ralph Smedley said. So why go with all the boring colors until and unless it's a district workshop, or whether it's something like that? If you want people to learn, I truly believe that you can only learn in moments of fun and enjoyment. So when this person speaks, do you feel the sincerity, or do you feel it's just mugged up and just presented? That's what you look for in the entire segment here. Like Molly Marty has said, the utmost form of respect is to give sincerely of your presence to anyone, because that person is actually taking 5 to 7 minutes away from everybody's life. How sincere were they? So here in the delivery styles, you again categorize it into two divisions: body language and vocal variety. Now, when you say your body language was not good, you don't say it that way. What exactly in your body language was good? Your eye contact was not good. Okay, what exactly in the eye contact was not good? Because everyone can say, oh, you did not maintain good eye contact. But that isn't great analytical quality. What is better analytical quality is when you were speaking in the first half of your speech, you maintained great eye contact. But when it came to the story part, your eyes had moved to the right quadrant or the right upper quadrant. And the right upper quadrant actually denotes you are trying to recall and remember. You got to give it that specific. So the judges who listen to you, the audience who listen to you, and most importantly, the person who you are giving feedback to understands that you have thoroughly listened to the speech and you know what you're talking about. So in body language, I have quickly just put down this one. In eye contact, what are you looking at? The person has to look not at the screen like I'm looking now, but into the camera. That's what we're looking at. The person has to look at the camera. Now, when he's looking at the camera, in between, when you're trying to recall, sometimes we have this thought. Let's give it a try. Can I have somebody volunteer, please? Any one person volunteer? Any one person?
Yes,
I can do that.
it's okay.
Okay, Kavita, can you also please spotlight Kavita along with me? And I want all of you to watch Kavita. Okay, Kavita, you're going to be a scapegoat today, okay? So, Kavita, what did you have for breakfast today?
Idli sambar.
Okay. What did you wear yesterday? What was the color of your cloth?
Gray sari with red blouse.
Yes, red sari with blouse. Okay, that's wonderful. Kavita might not be a perfect candidate because she's mastered eye contact. She can look straight at you and remember. Can I have another script code as well? Thank you so much, Kavita. See, this is a skill. To be able to look straight into the screen and talk is a skill. I'm not looking for script codes, but I just want everyone to understand. So can I please call upon our Zoom master? Can you please spotlight the Zoom master too?
Yeah. So somebody should spotlight me. Yeah.
There you are. Okay. Toastmaster Satya, don't worry. Okay, this is just an exercise for everyone
Yes.
to understand what's happening.
Yes.
So, you are married, of course, aren't you?
Yes, of course. I have only one husband.
Oh, okay, cool. Perfect. That's lovely. Okay, Toastmaster Satya, I want you to tell me what is that one thing that struck you on your wedding day? Something that you really loved on your wedding day. What was it?
Actually, I couldn't enjoy my wedding day because I was like ours is a love marriage, so I was praying that my marriage should end. That is, my marriage should get completed successfully. That is what only thing that was running in my mind.
Okay, that's lovely to know. Thank you,
Yeah.
Toastmaster Satya. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, did all of you see what happened? What happened when she was trying to remember? You see how her eyes went to her upper right quadrant. This is the level of analytical quality you need to remember. You need to give your speaker, because that's how the speaker understands. Yes, you need to look into the camera, that's right. But how do you know that they did not have good eye contact? Remind them that they look to the upper right quadrant. You know, when you're trying to frame sentences, you look to the upper left quadrant. When you're looking down left, there are a lot of things related to that. But generally, in a speech, you will find them look to the upper right quadrant, trying to recall and remember their speech. So when you are saying, don't just say eye contact, make sure you have good eye contact. Tell them specifically what exactly in eye contact did you find? Where did they go wrong? So that's how you genuinely help them. And then when it comes to hand gestures, usually we say, oh, you did not use enough hand gestures. What exactly did they not use? Rather than that, say things like, your hand gestures were repetitive. You were constantly using this action. Or for another example, there are certain rules relating to hand gestures and body language when it comes to your whole arms. So notice if they're keeping their elbows close to their body, because if they're keeping their elbows close to their body, it denotes a lack of confidence. It's a negative, introverted sort of body gesture when it comes to hand gestures. So these are things that you look for. When they are standing, do they constantly move to the front and to the back? Like some people do this. Note that, say that. Or when they move this way, note that. So these are called rhythmic movements, rhythmic steps, rocking, or are they standing on one leg and shifting? You know, all these are movements that you can note and that you note it down. In the end, I will tell you how you can select the ones that are required. So all this throughout the speech, you are constantly noting down points, positive, negative, positive, negative. You are noting down everything. And then when it comes to vocal variety, don't tell them you were monotonous or you did not have vocal variety. What exactly did they not have? So to do that, you should first know what exactly are you looking for in vocal variety, right? For example, volume. Did they have a higher volume when they had to denote louder speech? Or did they have a lower volume when they had to denote a whisper? Or how was their pitch? I apologize, my baby's in a very cranky mood. I apologize for the disturbance at the back. Carrying on. So the pitch, did they shriek when they were excited, or were they speaking in a very low bass when things were serious? The pace, were they speaking really fast because they were too excited, or were they thinking and speaking too slow? Again, the resonance. Did they put in resonance? For example, were they saying things like, oh my God, she was crazy? Or they say he was crazy and he moved on? You know, that is resonance, stretching a word. Emphasis. Did you have emphasis? So you see how I put, did you have emphasis? You was the emphasis. So play on things like these. Reiteration. Did they constantly bring back their title in between? Or were they just going ahead as one full speech? Pauses, the most powerful vocal variety tool, pauses. Did they have enough pauses? Or were their pauses too fast? Or did they not have any pause at all? Or was it too long? So when you say you did not, or maybe you could have worked on better vocal variety, rather than that, rephrase it. Say, what's your pause pattern? Can you have longer pauses? Or over here in this one segment, I noticed that you said so and so. It would be better if you work on pauses in your vocal variety in particular to have a better. To work on your pauses. So these are the things when you say, don't just say, can you work on better vocal variety? Can you, or your body language has to be better, or your vocal variety has to be better. No, tell them things like, in your vocal variety, focus on your pace, your emphasis, and your pauses. For example, and then tell them, it will create a huge impact. It will settle down. Again, after that is, now this I'm going to be covering again in the end in another one. So in the whole speech, was it entertaining? Was it inspiring? Was it informational? Or was it too direct? You need to analyze this, write it down. Now, I want to take you to another presentation where you are literally going to cover please give me just a second. Now is when we move to how do we evaluate. Now we've learned everything what we notice in a person's speech. Now, what is the ballot? You must study the evaluation ballot. You cannot be a winner or a champion if you do not know the ballot by heart. So for the evaluation ballot, how are the judges going to mark you? Remember, arts, A-R-T-S, arts. So A stands for analytical quality, R stands for recommendation, T for techniques, S for summation. In analytical quality, this is where I say. So now you have your sheets, you have all the positives, all the negatives written down. The moment the speaker finishes speaking, you're going to tick only those points which you know it will only be you. It is unique. Nobody else is going to speak about it. But you genuinely know the speaker can change, and that one factor which they change can bring about a huge difference. Select about 2 to 4 of positives, 2 to 4 points to work on. Once you have that ready, this should be done by the time of finish, the speaker finishes his speech. Then you look at, then when you analyze, this is what the judges will look at. Did you analyze? Did you mention their strengths? Did you mention their weaknesses? Was it clear? Was it clear? Were you just saying you got to improve on your body language, or you got to improve on your eye contact? Or did you say, your eyes meant to be upper right quadrant, which means remembering. So I would suggest you practice with the camera, record, and then watch yourself and keep practicing. Things like this. Was your comments clear? Did they identify specific strengths and weakness? So for example, you can say, I loved the way in which your hand gestures were positive throughout. It was in line with your speech. Your elbow had the proper distance from your body. Your fingers were all out. It was open and extrovertic hand gesture. So this is how you speak. Then for recommendations. Now, there might be many mistakes that a speaker makes, but are you going to call out everything? Or are you going to show how great, how well you have taken your whole analytical skills? Or are you going to give them practical, helpful, positive recommendations? Now, is this going to help the speaker move to the next level? This is what the judges are going to look at. So for a speaker who has just started to speak in English, do not focus on his pauses or the extremities of a vocal variety. Encourage the speaker. Techniques. The techniques are what we cover here. There are different techniques for evaluation. You need to find your own style. I'm going to share this slide with Toastmasters Sridevi, and she will send it out to you. So you all can take a look and just quickly read through it, okay? Because some of you have a sandwich style. You start with 3 or 4 positives, then you have your constructive criticism, and then you have one more praise, and then you summarize. So some of you just directly go into only the criticism. Some of you create a whole story around it, and then in between give your stuff. So there are different techniques in which you can evaluate. So I'm going to send you this, and you will find that some of the techniques are stuff that you yourself do, and it's very normal. So what you do, pick your own style. Pick your own style and then move ahead when you practice in that. Now, another most important category is, did the evaluator conclude? You must summarize. You can't just give the positives, the negatives, and say, I look forward to your next speech. No. Do not say, I look forward to your next speech. This is what everybody says. Why should you be a champion? Because you said the same thing that everyone else said. So you got to summarize by saying, okay, so to sum up, focus on your so, yes. And then have that, like the last 20 seconds for a speech, you have the 20-second power as well. Make sure in the last 20 seconds, you summarize and you leave them with a punch. Leave the person motivated enough so that he feels like asking for you as his evaluator. If the person comes back and asks you to be your evaluator, that means you are a huge success. Now, this is how the evaluation ballot would be. This is where you're going to get marked: analytical quality, recommendations, technique summary. So let's remember arts. Arts, easy to remember, right? So if you have the judging ballot in your mind, anything is possible. Now, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. I would like to listen to any questions if anyone has.
I have a question, Nancy. So before that, it was really an awesome session. You have explained all the bits and pieces of evaluation, actually. Right. So you have given a lot of tips to us. That moment when we are in the contest, right? How we can remember all the points, whatever the speaker has given. So how can we, first we should know what and how we have to evaluate. So how can we remember all the points? Though we take notes, sometimes while taking notes, we may miss what the speaker is saying. So how can we remember?
So when you take notes, remember I said throughout your speech, throughout their speech, you're going to have 2 columns. You're going to write the positive somewhere, you're going to write points for recommendation somewhere. That doesn't mean you write down every single line or word what they say. You write down, like, for example, great pacing of speech. That's the positive. Point to work on, practice pauses. There is a particular 3-second pause pattern or 3-word pause pattern, because some people have that. So that's how you write. And by the end of the speech, not yours, I mean, when the speaker finishes, you should tick only 3 to 4 positives, 3 to 4 points of improvement. And when you tick these points, you should know that these are those points that nobody else is going to speak about. And then even on the way to the breakout room or in the breakout room, you are not sitting and writing. Rather, you are practicing. You are constantly practicing. Now, how do you know what evaluation style? That's something you should know way in advance of the speech. You try different evaluation styles, practice, and see which one works better for you. Find that one, and then you start evaluating your speeches. And when you're evaluating, start practicing what I said, and you will see how it works, you know. So you will know, okay, if do I have to write a full sentence to remember? Or with 2 words, if I write just 2 words, it means this. For example, P with 3 lines means pacing has to be more. These are techniques that I use. Have your own shortcuts. So that will help you. And so in those 5 minutes, you are not writing down, and the rest of them are writing down. You are standing up and practicing for your delivery. That's how it works. Yes.
So what if I'm going to be the first contestant?
You still have 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes are where you practice. That's why I said you are not writing after the speaker's speech. You finished your writing when the speaker finishes. So those 5 minutes are when you stand up and you practice. Those 5 minutes are when you pull in your quotes which is required and you put it in. Sometimes when you listen to the speaker itself, okay, this is the quote that I'm going to use in this, or I'm going to use this story from my life in my evaluation. So all that calculation must finish when the speaker finishes. Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Satya. Toastmaster Cyril, you wanted to ask something?
Yes, distinguished Toastmaster Nancy. First of all, thank you. I got double education session. One is how to write a good speech and also how to evaluate a good speech. So there were a lot of tips on that. So a part of my question which was there in my head has been answered by answering Toastmaster Satya. But I really want to understand, because we're all in the virtual world and everyone is not yet accustomed to this whole screen setup. So eye contact is something which is something in the speech handbook also thought about not to be included to point out. So what do you feel? We should point that out when a speaker is speaking, because in the new handbook, they do not mention that it's okay if we miss that point of pointing out. That's my first question. The second question is, as you rightly said, that complete all the writing when you are actually listening to the speaker. What exactly, to be very specific, in this 5 minutes when you get to prepare, when you actually prepare for your evaluation, what are the points we need to think? Do we really need to think all the codes beforehand and keep it handy and think that let's put that in to use? Because I heard one of the district champion using the world champions quote, Darren's quote, when he was evaluating. So what is your suggestion? How should we go about with it?
Okay, so for your question number 1 about the eye contact, you yourself think, would you feel comfortable if I answer your questions this way? Or would you feel comfortable if I answer your questions this way? That should answer it, right? Now, when you are a judge, again, the effect that the speaker makes on your audience is based on whether the speaker, one of the points is definitely based on whether the speaker is creating the relationship with you, that contact with you. So even if it is explicitly written that it does not have to be considered, are all the judges not going to be considering that? Now, do you want to be that speaker who looks right at them and they speak, or do you want to be the speaker who speaks this way? Now that I will leave that choice to you. Now for the second question that you said, yes, very, very much before when the speaker finishes his speech, you will be ready with the 3 points that, or 3 of whatever, the positive points, and the 2 to 4 points of correction. Now, when you are ready with it, you're going to remember what exactly did they say, what is your point for conclusion, how can it help the person for each of these things. So it is prepared as the speaker is speaking. Sometimes you might get all those 3 points that you require by the mid of the speech. Sometimes you might even get that ready, and that means the rest is your preparation time. And if those 3 points that you get, 2 to 3 points or 4 points, however, that you get is perfect, if it is, you know, it is unique, nobody else is going to say it, then you don't have to take anything down anymore. You just start practicing from that moment. So yes, to answer your second question, it is done. All the code calculation, everything is done before the speaker, when the speaker finishes speech. Your written stuff is done. It's only practice that's remaining. And yes, of course, during practice, you can always improvise. There's nothing wrong with it. I hope I answered your question. Are we good with all the questions? I've seen the time is up. So
That was a wonderful speech. Thank you so much.